is a woman, a black woman who's
Sure.
running for Congress
Sure.
in Baltimore, who's a Trump supporter.
Sure.
How?
I would need to look at what she said and
Right.
why.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, it still fits with what I just said.
Nice.
That I think, it's like people say, well, Trump did. There's a really powerful piece called "Blood on My Hands." It's by a Catholic who is not anti-abortion, and she talks about how if you are pro-life, you are pro-helping people at all stages. If you give me your email, I'll send it to you. It's very powerful. And the reason I brought this up is that I forgot what reason I had.
That's all right.
The thing is, I know. There's always somebody who's going to look at a giant shithole and say, oh, look, Mussolini made the trains run on time. We're heading, and we're already flirting with authoritarianism. Newsweek had a recent article this week about how Turkey and we are similar in some respects. Not a happy, cheerful piece. So there's also on the side of climate deniers, people who deny climate change. There's some yokel somewhere they can cite. They ignore NOAA, NASA, the entire rest of the world. Scientific consensus. Sure, there's one person who is black who supports Trump. I have no idea why.
Right.
I think if you...
I think there's speculation at this point is that that Trump will get somewhere around 30% of black male votes, which is an unprecedented number for a Republican.
That I haven't heard.
And it's speculation at this point,
Yeah,
but it's based off of polling.
Just looking at this adorable little dog without a leash, and then this giant big one. Who belongs to the adorable little dog belongs to this person who doesn't have him on a leash. Or maybe they belong together. Who knows? Listen, I cannot answer for people's foibles. I do know this. Here's an example of what counts for thinking in this country. People say, oh, there's not a high death rate from COVID-19.
Right.
And I'll go, gee, tell that to the 225,000 people. And then I'll say, tell that to the 900 American medical personnel who have died from COVID helping others. And then I'll say, what about long haulers? What about immune multi-system failure, I think it is? What about my friend Kevin, age 43?
Is it do you see it as an inherent, I think the numbers for people under 70 is somewhere around 99% survival rate. So to say if you say that there isn't a high death rate if one asserts there isn't a high death rate for COVID, is that a denial in and of itself of the fact that...
The way it was framed it was a denial of the seriousness, like, oh, what the fuck, kind of thing. And first of all, it depends what portion of the population you are. It's not just people who are elderly. It's those who have historically and now being marginalized and harmed. Latinx,
Right.
people of color. So when you say that 99% survival rate, who are you talking about? And are you looking at the potential lifelong medical issues like kidney,
Right.
blood clots,
Right.
etc.? So I find that kind of comment, in the context I've seen it, dismissive and ignorant. And it's mostly ignorant also of the 900 medical personnel as of August 2020 who died helping others. And so it's a kind of excuse for, I'm going to go out and not wear my mask, and I'm going to do whatever I fucking please.
I wanted to get back to this issue. So in our separation of powers. We allocate rights in the United States, many rights to the states. And so with regard to the COVID response, a lot of the response was sort of specific to each state. They kind of were on their own to sort of come up with what they needed to do. And we see different results in different states because of the way people, like states, responded.
No, not just that. Different results in different states because of geography, because of
other
international
factors
borders,
for sure, yeah.
because number of vulnerable population.
Right.
This is the problem. People take this little piece and they go, here's the truth, and they blow it up and they ignore the rest of it. One of the reasons New York got so hit by COVID was because of that non-existent travel ban. And in February and March of this year, people flew into the international airports. The taxi drivers who picked them up, etc.
Right.
All the folks.
I guess what I was going to try to get to is it's not so. It would seem that there's responsibility to go around for what happened with regard to COVID, because it wasn't. It's not the executive's ability to just sort of mandate to all the states what they need to do because of the way our government is set up.
There's mandate and there's model and there's encourage.
Mm-hmm.
Trump has mocked, as recently as this week, people for wearing masks. Apparently at a news conference, he made a joke about somebody's mask being too big. And he knew how dangerous COVID was in March, according to Woodward's tapes. He said it was dangerous, airborne, and more severe than the flu, and yet he held 6 indoor rallies, knowing what he knew and not telling anyone.
Right. And I'm not trying to say that didn't occur, but at the same time that was occurring in New York, you had de Blasio telling people to come celebrate the Chinese New Year at the same time, knowing the same.
Look at the dates of that.
That's in March.
Early March, and that's. Look.
And also, you know, in addition to that, you have Cuomo putting sick people into nursing homes.
Where was he going to put them? The ships that were brought in were not initially not allowed to have COVID.
Right.
Where's he going to put them, in your garage?
That's a good question.
You know, they had, at this time you're talking about, FEMA sent refrigerated trucks to New York City to put the bodies in. What I'm tired of is blaming governors, although thank God, when you look at what Trump did not do but could have done to create a supportive, unified, scientific, well-organized response. And if you look at that April 2017 Washington Post, Trump administration is ill-prepared for a global pandemic. You will see the seeds of why we got to where we are. And I don't blame the governors, although I think some of them, like what's-her-face, is it Idaho or the IQ of it, Turnip, etc. Look, Trump pitted governors against one another to get ventilators. I'm not giving them all a wash, the governors, but I look at the top of the turd.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so this is not excusing what Cuomo might have done, but the thing is, this is what I see people forgetting, context. People say Dr. Fauci flip-flopped. No, he didn't. When he came out about masks, all of us ran for N95s, which meant the medical folks couldn't get them. So he said, wait, hold off. And then we found out more. So we're all wearing these. And people say he flip-flopped. I said, you know, what part of we're now understanding more? What part of why we initially said, you know, what part of that? And they don't. They just look at this soundbite. So that's what worries me, the inability to see what common sense says. Boy,
What
I
do you-
have really yacked at you, haven't I?
Yeah, well, what do you think? I agree that there's a real problem with in the country and maybe the world at large where people feel informed after reading half a dozen headlines every day, or maybe getting their news off of Facebook. What do you think can be done about that?
The 60,000.
I mean, this is off topic, but
No. There has to be education that encourages critical exploration, that doesn't teach to a test, which is basically multiple choice. There has to be responsibility and responsibility comes through history. A knowledge of history.
let me just tack one thing onto there. Do you? I assume we both agree that that is a problem. And does it seem to you that it is a problem that spans the ideological and political spectrum?
I think it does. But I think from my sources, the Republican emails I get, and I have phone banked, and I look at the language of my phone banking versus the language of the mobs are in the streets. They're coming for your suburban house that I get from the Republicans. The screaming at 900 decibels when there's not even a molecule of fact. And I lost track of it. And I worry about that. I think it's such a complicated question. It begins with parents valuing their child and valuing their child's exploration and encouraging it and not parking them in front of a television set. It begins with children being outside and connected to other people in the world. And it begins with us not saying to educators, make sure they have A, B, C, D, and E under their belt when your class of 30 can have 5 who are without homes, 5 who are from broken families who don't have enough food, people of color, and this can be proven. If you are a child of color, and I am a white child, and both of us are naughty, and we write graffiti in the bathroom, you as the child of color are going to be punished more severely. You may even be suspended, and I'll just get a little, there, little white girl kind of thing. And that sets in motion everything. The other part of education is also understanding what privilege you have. And I am immensely privileged, even though I'm a short, stubby, cranky 67-year-old who has had my fair share of anti-Semitism and shortism, the sort of patronizing there, and misogyny. I am highly educated. I will never starve. I have family and friends and support, and I recognize not everybody has that. And how do we create an education system that reaches so many diverse people without and recognizes it and supports them? And then you get people who are willing and able to think more diversely, who won't just look at a headline and say, oh yeah, Trump said the economy is doing well, it's doing well. And they don't go anywhere. They don't look at Forbes that says lots of crappy jobs available. They don't value their own observation that says, now wait a minute, most of my friends are working 2.5 jobs and they have no health care. I think it's a culture of questioning in education and not a culture of knee-jerk response.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I am really.
No, don't worry about it at all. It's fine. Is there anything you want to say to just wrap it up? And also, I'd like to ask you, independent of what you want to happen, perhaps, what do you think will be the result in the election?
That is the scary thing.
It is.
Because as I said, I never knew our democracy was this fragile. And to have Trump try and dismantle the ability of the post office to work. And in my neighborhood, we had oh, it's there, now it's gone. Oh, it's back, now it's gone mailbox.
Do you have a feeling about who's going to win and when we'll know?
I'm afraid I don't know. I was in India when Trump was elected. I wasn't surprised, although I was horrified. I thought of staying there. But Modi's not so great either. Just
right.
don't quote me on that, because I go back and forth to India. I don't know. Swim in a wetsuit. Did I already tell you this?
No.
Okay. Blue 70 is the brand I have, and it's actually out of swimming my 40 minutes with my wetsuit, my little hat, and I mailed my ballot for a blue tsunami, and that's my Facebook caption. You know.
Right.
And I hope, I have no illusions that Biden is the best candidate, but the best candidate is somebody who beats Trump at this point. Because I worked in environmental journalism and other things, and because I have friends who are friends with people in high places, and my sister worked for EPA high up under Obama. She was a political appointee. And my brother is a volunteer EMT, and my second cousin is an emergency room physician and flew 3,000 miles to help a New Jersey hospital that needed somebody to head its COVID-19 unit, because I have 30 other family and friends who are on the medical front lines, including and because I have family in northern Italy, and I've been watching this since then. I am very afraid. I am very afraid. On what planet? I mean, the thing, if you saw, for example, Trump mocking Hillary 4 years ago, you could see those videos all over. She stumbled while she was campaigning because she had pneumonia. And there are videos of him mocking her stumbling. That anybody could still vote for him boggles my brain.
Right. All right. Well, it's a pleasure.
Let me give you my email.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell me your name again.
Samuel.
Samuel. I'm going to use Samuel.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
own pen.
Yes.
Very interesting. Whether